What is going on? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Thank you for the 900 something that are already here. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Jacques Ranu, Darth Izzy, Stella Ortois. We've got Reds Homestead, Augie 94. Let's see here, Kimbria. We've got lots of new names in there too. Thank you guys for giving us a chance. Lori D, Dragonfire, Ballistic Mystic, thank you. Gunslinger, thank you so much. And of course, Butterfly 31, thank you. D Lynn, thank you guys, and welcome to the show. Today, we have lots of crazy stuff. Let's get straight into it. We, of course, have Russia and NATO are now in direct confrontation. Kremlin declares on the day the alliance celebrates its 75th anniversary as it accuses the U.S.-led bloc of moving towards our borders. So the same day there is a alliance celebration and an anniversary, they are essentially saying that they are now in a direct confrontation. This is the same day we're getting warning from John Kirby and CIA that Israel is going to Iran is going to attack Israel in the next 48 hours. Now, the 48 hours, we don't know if that is absolutely true, but we do know that they are saying that that's confirmed information as far as what they are saying, right? So what the heck is going on here? You've got a lot of countries basically trying to declare war without actually declaring it. So very, very freaky information. We're going to talk about this and much, much more on today's episode, so stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, Russia and NATO, head to head. That's at least what they are claiming is going on. Let me just fix something here real quick. I think maybe this is pointed the wrong direction. There we go. If we do have any sound issues, again, I have to change the setup almost every day. Make sure to let me know. Sometimes we have some things like that. Just give us some feedback. By the way, there's breaking news like every 10 minutes right now. If you see a story, we are live. We do all of the stories. We compile them before the show. So if there's something you see, a lot of it might actually already be in the show. We really do get stuff ahead of time. But if you see something breaking and it says it just happened in the last 5 minutes, you get that into the chat and one of the mods will get it to us and we'll get it on the show. Speaking of which, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
I am going to put up the phone number. If you have tips, you can actually call us at 224-400-MARF and leave a message. Press option 3. That phone number is going to be scrolling down below. If you have, again, any kind of information that you are allowed to share that's not going to get you put, in trouble, then make sure to give it to us over there at 224-400-6273. Also, marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. You can actually submit videos. If you have a Ring doorbell cam of an asteroid coming in, nobody's reporting it, send it there. Let's bring in Dex for a second. So Dex, they're making some pretty strong comments. I talked to you earlier about how Medvedev has been, actually doing like social media rounds, doing videos, basically talking trash about the U.S. and everybody else. And now they're essentially making comments directly from the Kremlin.
Exactly. So this is Dmitry Peskov, and he was telling the reporters, I guess, in a press conference from the Kremlin, and those specific quotes that you gave, but basically saying that they are already involved. NATO was already involved in the conflict surrounding UKR and continues to move towards their borders and expanding its military infrastructure towards our borders, he said. So, and went on to make some of the other statements, especially the one related to direct confrontation. So, if nothing else, they're sounding the alarm, so to speak, or maybe even giving a preview that, this is about to go down between NATO and Russia. I don't know if it's a matter of Russia is going to strike a NATO territory, or if NATO is going to provoke something with Russia, or something else may happen in between that gets done by the intelligence groups on either side. But something, it's going nowhere in the direction of towards peace. It's going like 1,000 miles an hour towards the direction of all-out war. We've heard it from the European side for months now, and we're going to continue to hear it from the Russian side, and it's amping up. And it's not just the words, it's the actions, the movement of troops, the placing them on the borders. We're putting them in Finland. They're putting them on the borders of Finland. It's the closing of borders. It's the extraction of migrants and other people from their country. There's a whole lot. The list is just getting longer and longer, and it's obvious what's about to go down.
There's at least 4 or 5 signs per night that this is all about to go down, and probably 3 out of 4 that people kind of push away. They're like, yeah, but that's too obvious. It must be a distraction. It's getting very, very clear. They're straight up telling the world that this is about to go down, and they don't care what you think. They don't care if nobody wants this. They don't care if people's lives are lost. That is not the worry. The worry is the power structure and everything that's above our heads. Remember, the people at the very top, they're going to be safe and secure through this entire thing. You see a lot of them preparing now. Why did Jeff Zuckerberg buy this, crazy, insane bunker mansion? Do you think he really just did that? This robotic guy who's just very emotionless, learning how to make swords and forge things. Do you think that this guy built this bunker just to show his friends? I don't think so. Again, I thought originally that he might be the kind of guy to be like, oh, look at this, I've got the newest TV, it's see-through and blah, blah, blah. I don't think so. After seeing more and more videos about how he works and how he mentally is, I think that he is logical. He's like a Spock or something. And he is building a bunker. He's having things shipped in. You see Sam Altman doing the exact same thing. You have 2 of the most important and rich people in the world and most connected people on the planet are building bunkers. On the other end, you have people like Elon Musk straight up telling us, hey, we need to get to Mars by 2029. Why? I don't know what's actually happening above our heads, but I can guarantee you there's some sort of X file that's in the desk, and it shows us exactly what's going to happen, but we'll never see it. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, people consider this crazy talk, and that's stupid at this point. It's been 4 or 5 years of just straight war rumors and rumors of wars, and people think that this is all just going to go back to nothing. We are in the 4th turning. We are at the time of the another world war, and it's not going to be the end of the world. It's going to be the end of certain places. It might be the end of certain people, but it's not going to be the end of the planet. That's not what I think. I think that they're bringing in a new system, and to do that, they have to tear down the old one. And meanwhile, the people at the very top, they are going to be absolutely comfy during the entire escapade. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know. And so they're, and all of we could go on for days. Germans leaked plans and the information that says that they're guaranteed going to war with Russia. Every country in NATO is telling their citizens to prepare. Yet the U.S., we still have this filter going through, and everything that goes through the U.S. says, we're fine. And I think part of it is our pride that, we're America. Nobody can touch us. Really? Is that why 7 million people just came in through the South and nobody did anything about it until it was too late? I mean, somebody did do something about it, and they were like, no, we should actually cut it with a pair of scissors about every 200 miles and make sure that it doesn't stop anything. That's literally what happened. So now we have, and they knew for a fact that people, bad people, were coming in because they were catching them one out of every so many. And that the one out of every so many that they caught were just the ones that they caught. You have something being set up, and then they find out China's been in our freaking infrastructure for 5 years, and people are still not awake on this. I don't understand it. All of these countries, them creating BRICS, and then all of the countries like jumping up and joining, saying, yeah, I want to join it. That is going to compete directly with the dollar. How do you think the dollar is going to take that? Any other time that the dollar has been threatened, we have gone to war. It's simple. The Gaddafi, Hussein, anybody else who threatened it with a gold-backed standard, boom, right away, it was war. Or that person was taken out. Estonian PM urges Britain to get 2 million army reservists now as Putin threat looms. Now, I can understand why people say, they're just scaring us. They're just scaring us for 5 years, and they're setting up the actual framework behind the scenes to actually go to war. They are moving actual tanks all around NATO territory. They are actually setting up Dragon's Teeth. They're actually digging trenches. They're actually placing mines. They are actually putting submarines, and they are actually deploying 5 carriers in the South China Sea, and people are still kind of in the dark on this. I don't really get it. But now they're urging them to bolster its defense capabilities by expanding its reserve forces to a scale akin to Estonia's own preparedness. It says, she said, we have a reserve army of 44,000 people. That would equal the Great Britain around 2 million people. 2 million people, why would they, or who would be ready to defend their country, who know what they have to do? This plea comes amid rising tensions in Europe, particularly following the second anniversary of the Russian invasion of UKR. Concerns loom large that President Vladimir is going to extend his military operations into the Baltic states, necessitating a robust defense posture from NATO members. Now, remember, whatever the agenda behind a certain theory, which would be that even if Russia didn't want to go into the Baltic states, that something would trigger that. It seems like they really want a war, and that the military-industrial complex is about to make a dealing. They're about to take a taking. You're talking about there's 5 companies that used to be 60, and 60 used to be 100. All these companies got merged to up to the point now where you have 5 companies run by a handful of rich people that are all connected with rich politicians that are all connected to other rich politicians that are all buddies and go to campfires with rich oligarchs that are all building bunkers. And again, look at this. It's like they're all talking like it's about to go down. But is it? That's, again, something that everybody's going to debate up until when it actually happens. I think that there will be a kind of a harbor, a Pearl event type thing, and that will get the U.S. involved. But who knows? Maybe going into full-scale conflict with Iran will be the thing that triggers all of this. Dex, do you want to go over the U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, says UKR will be a NATO member. Same day all of this is happening. Look at that.
Exactly. Nothing like let's stick it in the back. Let's twist it a little more. Let's do something that we know Russia's not going to like. Let's reiterate the fact that UKR will become a member of NATO. That was the quote. UKR will become a member of NATO. Our purpose of the summit is to help build a bridge to that membership. That's what Blinken told the reporters in Brussels. So at the end of the day, it sounds like, at least from America's point of view, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. That's going to be something that Russia's not going to stand for. They didn't stand for it when it was hinted at beforehand, and that's why they rolled in. That's one of the reasons why they say they rolled in. So this is exactly the type of instigation that we're seeing right now. We see it on the words, we see it on the physical movements, whether it's movement of equipment, movement of troops. We see it with the deployment of the exercises up against the borders, pressuring them. We see it with the F-16s now that are going in eventually in the coming days or weeks into UKR from the west. It's just one more nail in the coffin, so to speak.
Mind you, if you weren't aware, the big ultimate red line was Ukraine joining NATO. They say, and we don't know what they really truly care about behind the scenes, but Russia said that they would even stop the military operation, which nobody, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. Early on in the invasion, they said, hey, we'll turn back around if you put it in writing to promise to never, ever, ever join NATO. Now, Ukraine responded and said, no, there's other things in here that make it an unbearable contract. Like, there's no way we could agree to all these terms. You're basically making it so absurd that we couldn't agree to it. But then some looked at it and said, no, actually, they're making it pretty simple. You don't join NATO and they'll go back out. Back then, that was the same point that they had the Ghost of Kiev, and they had all of these victory stories, and everybody's facial or Facebook profile picture was UKR flag, and Zelensky was everywhere, and he was a hero and sexy, and they're like, oh, look at him dance. At that point, everybody's thinking, yeah, no, forget that. And people were literally shouting at Ukraine saying, don't agree to that. Heck, take them on. Take out Russia. Now, fast forward, billions and billions and billions of dollars, our own stockpiles are down low. We've got multiple massive major powers at war or about to be at war, and we are at the bottom of our barrels. It's absolutely insane that this all happened the way it did. And now, today, out of all days, they say, oh, yeah, no, Ukraine will be a NATO member, for sure, absolutely. It's going to get crazy. Just watch. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. With all the craziness going on, there are things you can do to protect yourself. We've been recommending EMP Shield because it's one of the few devices that will actually protect you against not only an EMP, but a CME or a Carrington level event from the sun. There's two out of probably there's some crazy ways that really bad disasters can happen, and then there's the more probable and realistic ways that things could get really bad. Two of those, one of them is guaranteed, which is a Carrington level event from the sun. They say it will happen. It's not a matter of when. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And they say we're overdue for one. If that happens and our grid is still vulnerable, our entire grid goes down, or at least that's what they think will happen. Back when we had telegraph wires, they all lit fire, even down to the headsets caught fire. Before we had full-on electricity, we had that happen. So they cannot imagine, with 10 times more sensitive equipment today, what would happen now. Now, when a Carrington level event happens, if we don't have all of our grid hardened and everything isn't fixed up, then you definitely want to get your own stuff protected. And as far as your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, you can actually protect them so you can get home to your family to bug in or get out to bug out, again, if you have an escape plan. A lot of people in the city are not trying to stick around if things get bad. So go over to marfugglenews.com/EMP. You definitely want to look at which kind of cars you have. If you have a super classic car, then you might not actually need it. A lot of the old cars, they don't need this because they don't have all the newfangled digital everything. But most of the new cars, they won't even run without their computer systems. Their computer systems run everything from injecting gas to turning to everything. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF to save $50 off and to help our independent channel at the same time. And then Dex, the CIA warns Iran will attack Israel within 48 hours as revenge for the consulate embassy strike.
Well, yeah. So here we have a three-letter agency giving out the intel, just like they did pre-Russia. Now, in that event, they gave it like a weekend or a couple of days, similar thing, 48 hours. It didn't happen until much later, but it did happen. I don't know if it's exact with that, but nonetheless, when we look at this, there's a lot of questions about, why is it being said? Why is it being made public? They're not even giving the details out in the public. If you want to learn a little bit more about it, we did put a news short, and many of you came over from that. But for those of you watching the replay that didn't see it, make sure it'll be at the end of this video. You can click it, or you can just go to Marfoogle News on YouTube and find that short. It's got a little bit more information specifically about this alert, and check it out and share it out too, because it's good for others to know. We're going to keep an eye on it and see what happens. We don't know. As I said over there, I think Iran can be a little more patient sometimes when it comes to retaliation. They prefer the sneak attack as opposed to the instantaneous reprisal version. So we'll see.
Again, that video's thumbnail is pictured right there. Just look for that thumbnail and you will be able to find that video. And as far as the IDF halts leave for combat troops, Intel chief warns worst is yet to come. Now, before I saw part of the headline and I jumped and I was like, oh my gosh. So for the last month, I've talked about how U.S. troops have been halted their leave for April into May. Now look at this. This is what I've been saying for 2 or 3 months, and this is because Foogle Fam tried to go whatever required time, 30 days or whatever, how many days before, to get their leave, and they were trying to go home for April into May. They were denied their leaves of absence. They tried to get it. They said, nope, you're going to have to wait and check back. And they weren't given an answer. They weren't saying, hey, you can go in June. They just said, nope, you got to check back after May. So they were just denied all of their leaves. And this is multiple bases, multiple states said the same exact thing. Now, I don't know if every state did this to their soldiers during April and May. I do know that we had a Foogle family member that said that their family member was visiting on leave, but they were very high-ranking. So I don't know if it was different for low-ranking or high-ranking, and I don't know if everybody did it. But I do know that there were several soldiers actively serving right now that asked to have leave for certain events. Even one was for the solar eclipse. They said no for April, no for May. And they said, you're going to have to check back in late April to see if you can do it in June. So I said for the last few months, I'm like, that's kind of weird. And I asked you guys, because I don't know, I'm not an expert on that. I asked the military groups and I said, hey, is this strange, or does this mean something might kick off during this time? They said, really, you have no idea. It could be because they're trying to keep them for a drill. It could be because of bureaucratic things. It could be for anything. Or it could be for that. Now the IDF is doing the exact same thing. IDF is halting, and we hear about this because it's not our country, so I guess they're much more open to share it. But the IDF is halting leave for combat troops, and Intel chief warns worst is yet to come. This is on the precipice of Iran saying CIA saying Iran is going to attack, which, again, a lot of folks are worried that just means a 3-letter agency is going to do something, whatever it may be. This is what is being said. So Yeah, and it says the directorate head says Israel is facing complex days ahead, increasing threats of strikes by Iran. So I am very doubtful that this is all going to be a very calm scenario, and it's all going to play out peacefully over the next 3 months. But what do you guys think? Let me know your honest opinion down in the comments down below. Speaking of which, let's do a quick roll call before we get into any of the other crazy, scary stuff. Again, if you don't like scary movies, don't watch scary movies. You're all adults. If you can't handle the news and the angles we're talking about, then this might not be the show for you. But if you are like this, thank you guys for joining us and thank you for giving us a chance. JWinch99, thank you over on DLive. Thank you, JWinch99. Says that Leeds will force the hand and live life in bunkers while we perish. Just me, or is the leadership hell-bent to unalive people? JWinch, I don't know if they're hell-bent on that or just their own mission for power, or they got a seat at the new table and they don't have to sit at the kids' table anymore. And I don't know, but it's getting crazy. And then Kiki Gray, Chance, thank you. And everyone else that just popped in, thank you. Ja98470, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And then Grace for you too. Sweating Ministries, thank you. Brett Butler, thank you for your support this week. And B-Roll Beast, thank you for the prayer super stickers. Thank you. I appreciate that. Blue Boy 1968, Chappie. And again, Starren, thank you for subscribing just now. Wessie, thank you for subscribing. And what was that? Mama of Six, thank you for becoming a member and staying on for 10 months. Thank you. And then we have Israel. So this, and by the way, there's a lot of fake stuff popping out about Israel and about Tel Aviv specifically right now. We are being very careful to make sure to verify everything, because we did see at least one video that we knew absolutely was fake, and even big accounts were sharing it. That's why we always try to wait and absolutely try to do the best we can to verify something. But one thing that was confirmed, that Tel Aviv had GPS scrambled as Israel awaits Iran's response. So Dex, as far as having your GPS scrambled, that can screw up a lot of things, especially now that modern technology has everything kind of buzzing.
Exactly. So the navigational signals were scrambled over Tel Aviv's metropolitan area on Thursday, as Israel braced for the potential attack. So traffic was delayed, food deliveries were disrupted, transportation applications showed, Tel Aviv, showed issues. Basically, they're doing this to disrupt any GPS navigation from drones or other missiles. So by scrambling that information, it will help prevent. It could make the actual targeting of those systems not work correctly. That is a precaution they're taking. I don't know if when they scramble it, if they also can still receive it for the military. I think that would be the case, that they can put it in a scramble mode where they can use it and no one else can, because it's probably encoded or encrypted in a way. That's the hence of the scrambling. So they have the ability to unscramble it, but public systems like your iPhone or your Android or your DJI drone that might have a package hanging underneath it won't be able to use the public GPS system that's in that area. So they are blocking it out as a deterrent or really a defense mechanism. So they are expecting to be hit.
Imagine being in Israel right now, and imagine you hear the U.S. news, because our news is at the top of all their headlines. Imagine you actually live there, regardless if this is all true, regardless if this is actually going to happen. Imagine just regular people going about their day-to-day. They see these headlines, says CIA in the next 48 hours, this is going to happen. And then you go to your phone. You can't even navigate to work. You can't do anything. Your phone is all scrambled. Your GPS is telling you that you're in Beirut when you're in Israel or Tel Aviv. Like, that would be pretty scary, I would have to say. And I think that us here in America, think about this. Say you're in Seattle and it says you're in Texas. That would be kind of freaky, especially with what we've been watching out for years. That's kind of creepy. I also think about what China's capabilities are now. And as far as the stuff that they just shared, I wonder if they are helping out their buddies. Now, they also can scramble radar and things like that. They say that that just 7 of their low atmosphere satellites can actually scramble and completely make all of our Navy useless. They say 28 of them, of these same kinds of satellites they say they now have, could actually knock out the entire world. And I wonder, with the GPS scrambling and things like this, is this electronic warfare equipment that they either have themselves, or is it equipment that they got from Russia or China? Or are any of these other countries helping them with this? Or puppet stringing some of these events? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then Russia says backup power line to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has gone down. The timing on all of this is getting ridiculous. Dex, so now Zaporizhzhia's backup is down?
Exactly. And, this isn't the end of the world, but it is certainly an issue. If the backup power, if it loses power, then the backup power is not there. It then causes problems. We've heard this report before. It's been a while since we've seen this report. We used to get this report, a couple times a month, but that was back when there was a lot of fighting in that area, a lot of shelling and things like that. So, but right now they're coming out and saying it. The state-run nuclear power company, Energoatom, said the 750 kilowatt power line recently restored by the engineers was still running. The 6 reactors at the Zaporizhzhia plant, held by Russia and located close to the front line of the war in UKR, are not in operation, but it relies on external power to keep its material cool and prevent a catastrophic accident. So, they took most of them, or all of them, offline. They've had some up and down over the past couple of years. There's been a debate as to whether or not they're going to run them. But now we've known for a while they've been off, but they do need the power line there to keep the cooling systems running, so that the fuel that's not being used while it's being stored is remaining cool in the water. So,
and it's
we'll
all
have to keep
external.
an eye on this and see how long this goes. Yes.
So the main power is there. So they still have power to keep everything cool. But if for some reason, if somebody went out and took out the main power, there would be no main power and there would be no backup power. And there would be, hence, no external power to keep everything cool and to keep it from a disaster. This totally could be part of a Ganda operation. Who knows? But it is. We are pointing out that it's happening on the same day as all of these other things. These are the daily events. This is the last 24 hours, and it's lining up to be some of the wildest hours in the last month. And then Russia says, okay, we got that. Denmark shuts shipping strait over missile failure. This was kind of odd. We have the Danish military was forced to temporarily close a major shipping lane and nearby airspace after a missile launcher on board a ship malfunctioned. That's kind of freaky if you think about it. Was it hacked? Did something happen to it? Did they hit a speed bump? I guess there's no speed bumps in the water, huh? The National Maritime Authority issued a warning for vessels to avoid part of the Great Belt Strait off of the coast of Denmark on Thursday afternoon due to a risk of falling missile fragments. The naval exercise began in the area last month and is due to end on Friday. The shipping lane was reopened on Thursday evening, about 6 hours. In a statement, the Danish military said the problem with the missile occurred during a mandatory test where the missile launcher is activated and cannot be deactivated. Until the missile launcher is deactivated, there is a risk that the missile can fire and fly a few kilometers away. Like, what is this? Like releasing a bird and like, we're just hoping it doesn't fly away? Doesn't this sound kind of stupid? Listen to this one more time. It says, in a statement, the Danish military said the problem with the missile occurred during a mandatory test where the missile launcher is activated and cannot be deactivated. Until the missile launcher is deactivated, there is a risk that the missile can fire and fly a few kilometers, just a few miles away. Why? So they turn it on. They can't deactivate it, but until they can't, and then when they and until it's deactivated, there's a chance that it just might go pew pew pew. This sounds like what did they get this thing made in China or something? Like, what is going on here? And this stock picture totally explains it. It's probably because they were firing it in the Bermuda Triangle. Just kidding. That's just the area that they said. By the way, the artist on this was in other news, Fiverr, some guy just earned $8. Okay.
That's talent.
That it is. That's the BBC. That's the BBC. That's really good.
You could have like shaded that a little better, put more flair to it, but no.
They could have, and they could say they got it from Google. What? Google in 1999? The defense.
Maybe they just drew it in Earth with the basic tools instead of overlaying some good art on there.
They used a free phone app or something. But in a later statement, the ministry said specialists had carried out a number of different tests, after which it was established that the booster was not armed and that there was no longer a risk that the missile can be launched. So I don't know. Something doesn't sound right. It sounds like they sat around a table, came up with like something, and they were like, well, why don't we tell the public that it was a mandatory test and that we during this mandatory test, we have to turn it on, and because of the kind of system, it turns on and it might fly away. For the first like 8 minutes, it will just might fire, but it won't fire like all the way. It will just fire like a little pew. You know, it won't have much thrust. It'll just go a couple miles. So there's a risk of that. We'll just tell them that. Sound good? Yeah? Chad says okay. Okay. Chad likes the idea. Chad? We're all good with Chad? Okay. I don't know, but I think Chad might have screwed up. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shastina. We've got Comet Moon. We've got Central Ohio in here. We've got Daniel Sen. Just send it. Pew, pew. See here, think. We've got Jammer 1. What is happening, J-Pass? We have Jonathan Floming. We have, did Boeing make this missile system? Yeah. Well, now it's all fixed at Boeing. They're already coming up with new ads for Boeing, I'm sure. Like, we strive to have the highest quality in flying pieces of metal. Seeking Truth, Marf, another emergency landing of Boeing today in Lubbock, Texas. Thank you, Seeking Truth. Lots of craziness with all of the planes for all of those travelers. Luckily, very soon they will restrict your travel anyways. So you'll have to have a barcode tattoo to travel soon. So no worries. You won't want to travel anyways because the planes will just fall out of the sky. And Mary, we've got Nickel Wise. We have Mirror 504 giving a shout out to the mods. Half off of seats by the doors. Yeah. And then the seats 2 seats over, those ones are free if you're in a mental hospital. And then munitions, we have the power outages. And all of those power outages, Weechi, I know, it's just getting nuts. Copper, hey, what's going on? And Findlay, Ohio in the house. We have Tennessee in the house. We have Oregon in the house. We have Florida in the house. Thank you, guys. Go Blue. Bob, we got so many new names. Thank you, guys. Thank you for sharing our show out. We really, really, really appreciate it. And heard the brakes burned up. Yeah, there's so many accidents right now. Illinois has been nuts down by Chicago. Lots of warnings. Jessica Johnson, by the way, if you get cell phone warnings, screenshot them and send them to us. If whatever state you are in. I loved Dex's idea the other day which was that even if you have a $20 or $30 extra webcam, that if across the country all of our Foogle fam members get an extra webcam and point them up, just leave them on, point them up towards the sky, that I guarantee you when, say, a weird space event or a weird sky event happens in Ohio or in Texas, that one of you will actually catch the event and you'll be able to submit that. And we'll have like this, network of sky-facing cameras. I thought it was a great idea. And if you guys want to participate, let us know. Put your extra Ring doorbell cam or whatever kind of camera systems you have and point one upstairs. And then Spina and then Meridian, what's happening? Seeking Truth, we have Scrappy Dappy Doo and Ballistic Mystic. Again, thank you. Cool. Ukraine joining NATO, it's been announced. Well, we talked about that earlier. Anthony Blinken basically said absolutely at some point they will be a member. So unless in the last couple hours since we've covered that, they're announcing a specific date, then that's crazy. But yeah, it's about to get crazy. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out My Patriot Supply. Go over to marfugglenews.com/prep. Again, it's freeze-dried food that will last up to 25 years. Again, that is marfugglenews.com/prep. And you can also get things like the Alexa Pure Pro water future filtration system. Again, if you haven't seen it, this is a really, really, really good system. It can filter a whole lot of water at once. It is all the quality and everything that you would get out of some of its competitors at a fraction of the price. It gets rid of 99.999% of all of the nasty contaminants, fluoride, chlorine, viruses, bacteria, pesticides, and pharmaceuticals. So if you're worried about what you're drinking, then make sure to go check that out. And then North Korea says it tested a new solid fuel intermediate range missile with hypersonic warhead. Dex, I think it's been every other day we've covered. North Korea is testing some basically one level up. It's like they're leveling up every day.
Yeah, they got to get all the kinks out of the new toys. They were recently acquired from Putin in the deal of selling arms and the trade that's going on there. Even though they're under sanctions and not allowed to do this, because I can't imagine they've been able to build all this by themselves. It just doesn't make much sense, especially given the difficulty that they have getting material and the difficulty they have even in their own country around manufacturing. But anyway, nonetheless, they are going to be the next ones with hypersonics. They've talked about it before. They've shown it before. They've test fired the engines before. Now they're taking it to the next level where they're putting the warhead on the components, so they're getting it more completely built and continuing to test. I don't think it'll be very long before we actually see one going across the water and probably causing some sort of an alarm to go off or alert to go off in Japan or even South Korea for that matter when they do that. And I don't even know if they'll be able to respond fast enough if it's truly hypersonic. And if it is, you can almost guarantee they got it from Russia.
Yeah, it was a day before that they announced they had some sort of crazy hypersonic system that they announced that 6,700 containers went by train to Russia. 6,700. So 6,700 containers went from North Korea to Russia. Then the next day, they have hypersonics. Also, the super EMP weapon that flies over Kansas twice a day or every other day. North Korea has 2 satellites, and they're right over the sweet spot over the U.S. The super EMP weapon if you remember this, and if you watch the show a lot, then you know we've talked about this a lot. But back in the early 2000s into 2010s, there were all these tests, and all of the media made fun of North Korea, and they said, oh, they did a horrible failure of a nuke test. Oh, it only created a tiny earthquake, and they only registered a 1.2 or whatever, and they're like, yeah, this is really small, low yield. They can't get it right. Now we know, and they know for a fact, that they were not trying to do a large nuke, that they were actually perfecting a low-yield super EMP weapon. And that super EMP weapon was later admittedly given to them, or they took it from Russia. That's how Russia put it. They said, well, we either gave it to them or they took it from us. So we can probably guess which one it was. Now, fast forward, they're getting even more gear from Russia. What I worry about is the stuff they're getting from China as well. If China is now advancing in areas, and the Pentagon is admitting that China is ahead of us in AI and autonomous drones, what do you think that China's doing with Kim behind closed doors that we don't know about? All of a sudden, are we going to see a North Korean drone swarm? Or a drone carrier? I guess we'll find out. And then Dex, go over the Philippines, says it's committed to maintaining a position on this island. It's yet another update of this this beached ship with the Filipinos on it.
The Philippines will continue to resupply missions to the soldiers stationed in a grounded warship off of the Second Thomas Shoal in the South China Sea. And China's attempts to foil them will be met with a response. This is what a top security official said on Wednesday. So they are, as we have been discussing, the ramp-up escalations with the Philippines and China, everything from words to getting the United States to reiterate verbally that we're going to back them, to making statements that they are going to take their escalations to the next level. This is a reaffirmation of that, saying they are now going to go in and they are going to continue to resupply. And when they run into issues, instead of just being hit with water cannons and, crying to the world stage about it, they may take matters into their own hands, is what it sounds like to me. Because they're going to actually, and I don't mean when they're crying, they're whining or anything, but they literally, if something happened, they just would say it. They wouldn't really respond. Well, now it looks like they're willing to take it to the next level, and I'm sure they're doing that because the U.S. said, we'll be behind you. Even though we were behind them with a treaty anyway, we've reiterated it. And I imagine Blinken went there and said, yeah, do what, or here's what you can do, or here's what we want you to do as our ally, because we're orchestrating all of this into the Pacific theater, and you're very much part of this. So they've got their marching orders, and they're going to follow them, and they're going to maintain the resupply missions, and we're probably going to see an escalation the next time the confrontation happens, which I can only imagine will be in the coming days, because it seems like it was happening weekly, if not more than once a week.
I figure in the next 2 weeks they'll have some sort of smaller interaction where the Philippines actually responds. But it won't be like a massive, all-out war. But it's just I think it's gonna go step by step. But we don't know what else is happening with this whole Iran versus Israel. China is kind of like sitting there on pause with Taiwan. You have Russia and Ukraine. You have, of course, Venezuela and Guyana. You have India now beefing up. India is actually, there's a lot going on there. If you've followed some of the bigger watched news now is Wyon. Surprisingly, a lot of people like Wyon. I get emailed countless videos of Wyon. Everybody is watching Indian news now. I think it's kind of funny because Indian news, when it first started popping up on YouTube, they would flash like a different picture every second. It would literally be like this, like, we in India, we are showing you lots of things, and we are flipping the page every 1 second to make sure that you are engaged into our content. And we are going to keep flipping until you don't stop watching us. And President Trump is awesome. But again, it's actually sharing a lot of stuff that independent news is. So it's kind of surprising. But Wyon News has been talking about all of the beefing up that India is doing. And surprisingly, there are mainstream medias here that have been quoting it, and other smaller news sites in India are the ones coming out with things first. And I was pretty blown away with this, because we just so you guys know, before every show we check the South China Morning Post. We check the People's Daily, the Shenzhen. We check RT. We check all of our adversarial news. We check, of course, Brazil's news. We check multiple countries. Basically, we have a list of all of these categories that we check every day. And after time, we've really honed it down to where we check every single category of the news and see by date, how new it is. India has been doing so much building right now, and nobody is really talking about this. The Philippines is probably going to be eclipsed by what India is about to do. They're building up their military like crazy, and nobody's talking about it. I'm very surprised too, because they are also dealing with China, and who knows, they might actually turn on them, turn on us and team up with China, but who knows? But they're building sub-hunters. They're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And then Venezuela, speaking of which, says U.S. building secret bases in disputed Essequibo. So, mind you, this is Venezuela, the same Venezuela that just took a vote to take over their neighbor Guyana, and it got approved. Nicolas Maduro, you may remember, we actually covered when Nicolas Maduro was almost taken out by a drone. The stuff that is going on in Venezuela, everything that happened with them, all of the crazy hyperinflation, all the crazy stuff that happened to them, it goes deep. It goes deep. 3-letter agency, crazy deep. It's nuts. The power outages, the blackouts, all of it. The drone attacks. But now they are actually accusing us of building secret military bases. Dex, do you want to go over that?
So Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on Wednesday accused the U.S. of building these quote-unquote secret military bases in Essequibo, which is that oil-rich region in Guyana, which is right in between, and they are claiming territory, and they're having a territory dispute over. The quote goes, "We have information providing that in the territory of Guyana Essequibo, temporarily administered by Guyana, secret military bases of the U.S. Southern Command, a body of the CIA, the 3-letter agency there, have been installed," Maduro said, end quote. He said the bases are an aggression against the people of the southern and eastern Venezuela and were built to, quote, prepare for an escalation against Venezuela. Now, honestly, I would believe him. I don't have proof other than his words, but it sounds absolutely right. Guyana asked for the U.S. to help. The U.S. said, hey, we're going to help. We've heard that we were committed to preventing Venezuela from going in there. So what would you expect to happen? Well, you would expect the 3-letter agency to probably be there first to start scouting things out. You would expect the military to slowly and covertly, probably with the 3-letter agency, to get stuff in and get things set up in a way to get prepared and then grow and expand from there. So yes, it's absolutely plausible, in my opinion. I have no proof other than what the president of the opposing country is saying. But I'd say it sounds pretty much par on what I would be expecting to be happening at this point. Again, it leads us down the path to understanding that we're, again, preparing for yet another location to have a conflict.
Somebody said that they have an e-bike. I would make sure that you figure out a way to protect that in an event. But you know what? What I have thought would be a great idea if you got stuck. Say even if you got your car protected and you have your car EMP protected. Say you are in the middle of a traffic jam and you can't go anywhere. And say say you're in the middle of the freeway, all the other cars die because of an EMP, to have either a gas-powered small scooter in the back of your trunk or have a foldable kind of e-bike that has some sort of protection built in. Take that out, flip it out, unfold it, and then, take that home. Some of those things can go 30, 40, 45 miles an hour. That would be awesome. Think about, I think a lot of people have missed that. I know that a lot of preppers now are doing them, especially the foldable gas bikes. But if they have protected e-bikes, man, if you live 20 miles from home and an emergency happens, something like that, if it was protected and still worked, that would be freaking awesome. Dex, have you seen how crazy the e-bikes are now? Like they can fold down. There's a tri-fold one that folds out to like a normal bike. It can fold up. It's like less than 8 pounds, and you can carry it like a suitcase into work and put it, and it's like barely bigger than a suitcase. Could you imagine having like 4 of those in a trunk, and your whole family could, mob home or something if you got stuck?
Wow, imagine four of those in your trunk. That's probably a full trunk, right?
Well, yeah, I'm telling you that they're so small you could fit 4 of them in a car trunk, not even like a SUV trunk. But they're so expensive now. I wish they were cheaper. Regular e-bikes have come down way, way down in price. But I wonder, because now they say that cell phones would be mostly okay from an EMP because of the size. I wonder if something like if you could get the electronics in the e-bike small enough to where they wouldn't be affected by an EMP or a CME. And then roller skates with the skate key. Anita Hark. Actually, roller skates or rollerblades, I don't know how to roller skate, but rollerblades is a pretty fast way of getting around. And it takes up a lot less space than a bike. Let's see here. We have no one not. We have J-Pass and Andrew still here. I have a whammy pedal. The e-bike would be fried, bro. Well, Dangerous Dax, they actually make the protection for a lot of this stuff. In fact, I'm pretty sure that there is an EMP shield that would probably work for an e-bike. But yeah, I don't know how big the systems are, but maybe you could also put
if it's 12 volts.
Well, maybe you could also, even if it was smaller, they have one for ham radios. I wonder if you could put a Faraday cage or build it around it. Think about that. Depending on where the electronics are, if you built a Faraday cage around the actual electronics parts. I don't know, though. Maybe there's too much electronics. And then practical quantum computing is coming in 3 to 5 years, but will be cloud-based. Dex, so I'm not super familiar with the cloud. I understand, but so basically they're saying that the servers will be somewhere and you'll be able to remotely access these quantum computers.
Yeah, correct. You're not going to roll a quantum computer into your home or even into your office or even into your government agency, but someone somewhere will have them, and they will have these massively large quantum computers, and they will be giving out access to them. So that access is very much like using cloud computing today, whether even things like email, you could almost think is like that because it's sitting up on a server. It's not on your computer, although it does at some point. But the fact that we've all been using the cloud, as they call it, whether it's storing files or even using applications like the Microsoft applications, etc. So when this rolls out, they're expecting, or they're pontificating in the next 3 years, that these massively powerful quantum computers will be in the cloud and available, and for probably a hefty fee, because I'm sure they're super expensive to build and manage and maintain, and the demand will be high. Everybody will be wanting to be on them. That will, sort of be the first iteration of having practical quantum computers, as opposed to the theoretical ones that they're currently doing today, which is just proving that certain equations can work, or proving that they can, make these massive algorithms process in, infinite and, amazingly fast times, etc. So, yeah.
So
that's going to be a scary point because it's not that far off. I mean, 3 years from now, you're going to imagine somebody taking a massive AI algorithm and plopping it up onto a quantum computer, and it's going to go bananas, so to speak.
Well, we're talking about evolution of our species once you get into that realm. Truth Irish says, I still don't get cloud computing. I mean, I get the basic concept, and Mama Pillow gave the best answer. Cloud computer is, and then in quotes, someone else's computer. It's when you're computing on someone else's computer. They used to have a gaming service, and I forget what the name of it was. It didn't last that long because it was actually a great thing. Back when, if you remember PCs, if you had to play a PC game, if any of you played PC games, it's like if you had your computer for more than 2 months, a new PC game would come out, and it would be way too powerful for your computer. Even if it was like Sims or something, or Sim City, it's like if it came out after 3 months or something, it was not going to run on your computer. It would bog down. Now almost every computer can play these really, really good games and stuff, and it's like the difference of quality. Now it's literally all about like, oh, do you want 1080p or 4K? But almost everything can run the next-gen stuff now. Back in the day, it was like every game was pushing a tiny limit, and if it was just a little bit worse than what your computer could handle, it would be slow. They came out with the service that was cloud computing, and I remember I paid like $20 a month. This was like around the same time Netflix was fresh, when they were still doing a lot of, sending DVDs to you. And this system was awesome. Like I could play advanced games, and it was through the high-speed internet. It was absolutely awesome. I was actually surprised because our internet was like DSL slow internet, and it was still able to do it. And I remember how they were basically explaining it. It's not like it's in the cloud. It's just a computer somewhere else, and then they're sending you the feed through the internet. And I like the comment that somebody says, yeah, the cloud computers, the server is going to be in China, LOL. It very well may be. And then you think about the control. Think about when it starts getting to the point where all the computers, the level of it has to be quantum, right? But you can't own a quantum computer. Maybe they'll have a rule against that. So every computer will be cloud. If you look at how systems are now, like TV and other content, you don't have an iPod with your music on it. It's on the cloud. It just streams, right? So in the future, you're not going to even have a computer. You're going to have a device that essentially accesses the computers. Think about how they can control the flow of information, how they can filter what goes to you if you do not actually have anything on your hard drive. You don't have anything on your computer. You might be able to save for offline, but really it's not. That's something that I don't hear many people talking about. If everything starts going to the cloud, they can basically take everything away. I mean, couldn't they, Dex? Wouldn't that be couldn't they control what ends up going through the cloud system?
Yeah, it certainly is. And, that's where we're seeing in the different cloud providers, different levels of security. Like Apple has rolled out a locking key where you can lock all your data so that nobody in the cloud, meaning Apple themselves, can access it. The downside is if you lose your key, you lose everything. Where other cloud providers don't do that, they actually just have access to all your data. And then, of course, at any time, any of those cloud providers could shut you down, and then you would lose access. Now, in theory, you should keep a backup of your
I don't think
information, but not everyone does.
I think if the FBI or CIA or something, I know there's been a couple court cases, but I don't think Apple is good as they say they are about it. Like if the FBI wants it, they can get it.
The new one is end-to-end encrypted, so it's. I'm not saying that the FBI and the CIA and whoever can't break that encryption. That may be a different scenario, but they don't have the key to it because it doesn't work that way. But it's not everything, and that's why they got ridiculed for trying to roll out something to satisfy the CP issue. by scanning photos beforehand, because it was before it got encrypted, because once it's encrypted, they can't see it.
I know, that's crazy. When Apple told us,
but they didn't do it. They backed off of that.
Oh, they
too.
did. Okay.
Nobody wanted it, and they're like, okay, well, we're trying to satisfy legal requirements, but then I think they went ahead and said, just forget it. We're going to roll out the security thing. So if you turn that key on, I mean, it's great, but at the same time, if you lose your key, then you've lost all your data.
I'm just going to ignorantly say, and because that's just how it works, I'm going to ignorantly say, no, it doesn't, because I don't know anything about it. But I'm just going to say, nope, I think they have control of it all. But and then,
hey, it's good to live that way, though, because if you believe the way you believe, then you'll trust nobody, and then maybe you'll protect your data even more than relying on clouds. So not a bad thing to do.
I
use the cloud as a convenience crutch. I keep everything that's important offline.
In the future, and this is sad, there's going to be groups of people. And I don't know if this is going to end with my generation, because the generation under me is the next one. It really is different. I was the last generation where we had no cell phones. We didn't have all this stuff, and we had them. So was young enough to get used to it, to use all of this stuff. Anybody born in the 80s, you know what I mean. If you were born in the 70s, you still know what I mean. Born in the 60s, you really are far away from what they're doing now. But even the people living right now, a lot of older folks, 80, 90, they're on TikTok and things. They understand it. But in the future, I think there's going to be people that are going to want to go back to the old ways. And this I say, and it's probably going to, I think it's already called something, something humanist or some anti-computer. I don't know. But if you look at videos of high school in 2000, it's like you see every single person talking to each other. It's really, go down that rabbit hole, look up videos. They've posted them all over social media. High school in 1999 or high school in 1986, or they have videos of just people hanging out in high school, or a party in 1986, or a house. They have a house tour in 1986, and it shows everything, and it's like a time capsule. Go check it out. I'm telling you, it will bring you back memory lane and nostalgia. But I feel like it should go back that way. I wish there was like a state that was just all not, that you could go to vacation where there was no cell phones, no nothing. Dex, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to get just slightly geeky on you. One, you could make your own encrypted drive, virtual drive, and then store that in the cloud, and therefore you got your own encryption on it, not even worrying about theirs. But here's the second thing. Going back to the article about the quantum computer, once that's online, anybody's going to be able to break any encryption. Until encryption becomes made with quantum capability, where it requires greater than quantum capability to crack it, quantum will be able to crack any encryption that exists. So yes, in 2 to 3 years, whoever is storing your stuff encrypted, it will be irrelevant if the people that want access to it have access to that quantum computer.
Well, and you guys might not get it now, but in the next couple years, the stuff we're talking about right now is there. These are going to be debates in the near future, and you're going to think, "Oh my gosh, I remember talking about this." It's crazy. It's going to get really nuts. The stuff we were talking about 5, 6, 7 years ago, that's happening now, and it's crazy to look back at the videos and be able to see us talking about it. And then the FLU, the cough. This bird version could be 100 times worse than CV, scientists warn. And the timing of this is what really freaks people out, because we're now coming close to November, and people are worried, oh my gosh, is this going to be history repeating itself? Only this time, is it going to be really, really bad? Everyone is wondering if there's going to be something like this. This has been rumored for like 2 or 3 weeks. Everybody's talking about war, this, that. But underneath it all, I've been getting message after message saying, is it about this? Is it about that? Hopefully it's not regarding a this. I think people are really starting to get nervous about a real bad one, like a real bad one. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but this also could be a part of a conflict. If we truly went to a nasty war, if there was a real nasty war, bio event would knock all the human beings out and keep the infrastructure completely fine. And it doesn't last for years like nuclear radiation. It would die off very quickly. So people worry about this kind of thing being done. Dex, as far as like this new bird thing, the other day we were cracking jokes about it because it was like bird, cow, human or something, but now it's like they're not letting go. They just keep covering this. So I'm just wondering if this is setting up a framework.
Yeah, and the headline is very salacious. It's very much meant to get everyone's attention and bring them in. I don't know where I stand on this topic right now, just because there has been a lot. It's not new. It's been around. It's had many different variations. Certainly, you can't always throw out all this information. Kind of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater just because we're upset over the last round. And I'm not telling you to believe this information either. So I do what you want to do with it. But at some point, they're going to be right. At some point, there's going to be something. And there's going to be something that's going to be as bad as this or worse. We've seen it in the past, way back in the day. I know that modern medicine has improved since then and kept us a lot healthier. But yeah, I mean, you got to pay attention to it. I wouldn't put your head in the sand completely, but I would definitely use some discernment and try to get as much information on it as you can. I'm not, shaking in my boots or anything. But Adam, while I've got you, grab an article out of Screener from someone in chat, Gunpowder Productions, from earlier tonight.
And Sis, by the way, since we're loading this up, and it's not, is it separate from the comment? I'll read the comment first, and then we'll read what. Sister is active Marine, confirmed recalling of retirees back to active duty, ran out of Fort Knox, recalling up to 12 years retired. Search PDF RACT Army Publishing Directorate at Army Pub's website. So I'm guessing this is what it is. Craig Lonsinger says, love you guys. Thanks for doing what you do. By the way, Gunpowder, we called this, we told you this from our active duty military. People give us so much crap, and they don't, not so much anymore, but quite a few years ago, more and more, we have really, really tried to make sure that if we give you info that we try to back it up with something. But we called this. And it's all thanks to you guys. The Foogle fam is got us covered. So, and then for a second time in less than a week, a Chinese national was caught in a U.S. military base. What are they doing there? Gosh, Dex, what the heck? I wonder, is this like the most obvious thing in the world?
It almost seems like it. There's a lot of easy dots to connect here. We're not talking about a complex puzzle. It's pretty simple.
You realize what happened before Pearl Harbor, right? They actually caught the same gentleman who did all the spying and did all of the recorded all of the different ships going in and out. He got caught several times, and he just pretended he was a tourist, and they just let him go. Several times he was accosted or said, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just taking pictures. He literally went above and beyond and acted super touristy. He had a map in his pocket. Oh, very pretty. Oh, okay, I go now. He was secretly recording all of the ships leaving and entering. What do you think when you see something like this? This is one of our main adversaries, which we just found out was buried in our infrastructure for 5 years. They have been buying up land right next to and adjacent and parallel to all of our bases. They've been flying their balloons and their surveillance over all of our bases. They have been accessing all of our infrastructure, including our water supplies, our Black Start program, and everything else. And people are still not putting two and two together. As far as that other publication, we're going to get that. Gunpowder Productions, I am super glad you told me that, because that is just one more thing that we absolutely called up to 2 years ago. I knew that this was going to happen. If they're truly recalling retired up to 12 years back into active duty, what does that say? And then you've got that going on. That's just not a good sign. Before we move on, if you don't have backup medications, we actually just talked about this with our guest yesterday. We've got a recorded interview that's going to be going out soon. But if you haven't seen Jace, this is a really, really great resource, especially not only for the Jace case, which has antibiotics in it, which basically is kind of like a first aid kit, but more specifically for those emergency medications, the stuff that you would really need during those times. The Jace case, for example, you can actually add things to it like albuterol. So you have an extra albuterol sitting there waiting, an extra asthma inhaler, boom, ready to go. You have all sorts of other medications you can add on. You'll have to look at their list. But the really, really important part, and this is what so many people are doing right now because it is incredibly, incredibly smart, is the Jace Daily. You can get a 12-month extended supply of your prescription meds. And then as that supply hits 11 months, you use one of those months as your current, and then you take your current and let that sit. You will always have a current and a year backup of medications with that. So go over there to learn more. You get a board certified doctor. You talk to them through telehealth. It's a very, very easy system to use, and it's all above board way to get yourself backup medications and even an extra year supply of some of the most important medications you have. Go to marfugglenews.com/Jase, Jase, and make sure to use the code MARF. Again, just remember our website /Jase, and then use the code MARF. Jase and MARF. 2 words you have to remember on top of our website. All right, and then we have what's going on in Chile. World's largest digital camera the size of a car built and could photograph a golf ball from 15 miles away. What a weird story, but kind of cool. Dex, they are building this for a specific reason.
Yeah, they're going to use it for astronomy. They want to look at and figure out what's happening in the sky. They think they're going to be able to create the most stunning map of the night sky. Astronomers hope over the next decade, the car-sized snapper will help reveal the mysteries of dark matter and dark energy. But take a look at this picture. I mean, this thing, that lens is over 5 feet tall. The thing's the size of it's got another lens inside of it that's another, I think, 3.5 feet tall. And then it's something like 200 plus sensors. It's 3,200 megapixel camera. So geeking out. I know not everybody's into cameras, but I know you are, Adam. And
this is super cool.
Some of us could look at this and go, this is pretty cool. Whatever they do with space with it, that's fine. Let them do their thing. I'm sure those geeks will have fun with it. I'm just thinking that's a pretty cool digital camera.
I think it's cool.
That's a lot of megapixels.
It actually looks like a camera. Like they made the lens look like a lens. You can see the inside, the different, I don't know if those rings are all different lenses, but you can at least see at least 2 or 3 lenses. And the way that even, the long, like the photo the other day of the collapsed bridge, a 500 millimeter lens can compress the background what's so cool about it is you've got 3 miles behind that bridge crash, you've got a crane, and the compression from something like that, you have 18 lenses in a lens like that, or 22 lenses, the parts inside, to then keep refracting it to make a 3-mile object look like it's right behind the actual ship. That it's so cool how it works inside of these lenses. I would totally geek out if I could see this in person, just to see the inside of that lens. Like, so I could look into it and look at the different parts. Dex, go ahead.
I got to tell you, after you schooled me on compression, I had to go test it out on a micro level with my phone camera and its telezoom. But now I understand exactly what you're talking about, how that works. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's also
keeping the same object in frame while you use a zoom and move further back. It was the technique I was taught online, and did exactly what you were explaining, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, it especially, and that's why the lens that took that photo is $12,000, because it gives you a result that people go, that doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a $12,000.
I know. I
lens.
wanted to argue with you, but I couldn't. I was like, wait a minute. That you're right. Those are but how can they be that close? Because on a map, they're so far away.
Yeah.
I was livid. I was like, no, that can't be right.
They're like 4
cool
miles
picture.
away. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And
it
makes it look like it's right behind so I think this is really cool. I'm sure there's some other photographers in the Foogle fam that think that's cool. And really it's mostly all lens. But yeah. And then what did you say about the sensor? How big is the sensor?
It is 3,200 megapixels, and it was made up of 200 custom sensors to make the 3,200 megapixels.
So it's actually 200 small sensors, like a regular camera, put together, and then they combine them. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like how your cell phone takes smaller sensors but takes bigger pixels, and then they all combine them to make the 200 megapixel pictures and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. If you're fascinated by this, you can go over and check out the article over at marfooglenews.com. It's a very, very cool thing there. Okay, and then thank you so much, Gunpowder Productions. I appreciate that. Thank you, Craig Lawnsinger. Thank you. Be Real Beast. Thank you over on DLive, everybody that popped in tonight. Thank you so much, JWinch99. You are a top supporter over on DLive. Thank you. And Gunpowder, thank you. And everybody else that has made it. Thank your mods by dropping an M in the chat, and also by going over to marfooglenews.com/friends. And of course, also make sure to click here after the video is done, and you will be able to click on our Marfoogle News video about that 48-hour warning from the CIA that essentially warns of a possible World War III. So not one to miss. Go click it. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It is a shoutro. Thank you, Dex. I appreciate you so much.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And yes, I'm sure one of these days we'll do an episode just reminiscing about old stuff. Every time we do, everybody has a great time. A lot of people were saying they're from the 70s, that they would like to go back to the 70s. That was the best time. I think a lot of you feel the same way I do, where you, of course, love watching stuff on your cell phone, but you miss not having one. I don't know. It's a really weird thing. You miss the magical part about like waiting for a 7:00 Saturday movie to come on and actually watching it instead of just accessing it when you want it. It's kind of sad, waiting 2 weeks till a program came in on TV. I guess people still do for certain things, but you know what I mean. Seasons of TV came out every week, which they still kind of do, but a lot of the times they'll just release the whole season. You can binge it. Everything's instant. And sadly, I think that's taken something away from our children. Have a good one. In the next 48, wild way. In the next 48, in the next 48, in the next 48, wild way. In the next 48, in the next 48. All right, thank you, DFW Jackie, Arthur Vigilio, Dangerous Dax, Poco Loco, Wages World, Briar Patch. See you on the other side. No, it is not. It is just a sample.